I think the Rockets are a tangent to this story. The breaking news is that Giannis Antetokounmpo is open to exploring best fits outside of Milwaukee, according to sources. They've got an article up on ESPN. They're talking about it on Get Up right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo to explore best fits outside of Milwaukee without going through the NBA standings and cherry-picking teams that are good fits for, the full list of teams that would be good fits for Giannis Antetokounmpo, because there's two things that I think you probably need to be. One, a contender if Giannis is on your team, and two, a team that has enough assets to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo to where the Bucks are going to say yes. Either Rockets check both of those boxes. I mean, I think that's an easy one. They were the 2 seed in the West. I know they got knocked out by the Warriors, but they won 52 games this year. And without looking at without pocket watching all the other teams that have hoarded draft picks and young players to make a move like this, I have a hard time believing, especially after tonight, if that lottery pick the Rockets have gets bumped up into the top 4. Right now it's forecasted to be 9th. That there's a team out there that has more that they could potentially give up if they wanted to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I think the Rockets are on the short list of teams that are the best fits for him. I guess the question to you, Seth, and the audience would be, right, depending on the price, is Giannis the guy that best scratches the Rockets where they itch? A bad shooting team with a bad half-court offense. He's not a good three-point shooter, but he sure is a guy that would attract a ton of attention and maybe open things up for guys. I guess the question is, what would you have to give up to get him? He's 30 years old right now.
I take with a grain of salt Rafael Stone saying, hey, basically we're just going to run it back, don't expect fireworks or what have you. That's just him being a good GM.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe he means it genuinely, but even if they have plans of being super aggressive, you don't put it out there that you're going to be super aggressive.
Right.
You don't look like the schmuck that just won the lottery. I was like, I need to blow this money on anything and everything.
Yep.
They're just, he's playing it close to the vest.
Yeah.
So I think there's still very much a possibility that they do make an aggressive move.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, is Giannis the move? The Athletic had an article, but relevant now because, again, the breaking news, Giannis Antetokounmpo open to exploring best fits outside Bucks. That's just coming down here in the last few minutes from sources telling ESPN's Shams Charania that that's the case. There was a trade. They did one of those articles, Seth, where they had Giannis going to like 4 or 5 different teams and what would the trade look like. And this particular trade had Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, and Jalen Green in it, and some of those Phoenix draft picks, and Cam Whitmore, and, and I know you need enough guys in there to match up salaries and whatnot, but any trade for any of these guys that are available that involves all 3 of Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, and Jalen Green, I am hanging up the phone right away. And the guy in the article, I forget who it was, analyzing the trade, because they had one guy proposing the trade and then the other guy reacting to it. It was a 2-person article. And the other guy reacting to it is saying, I might need a little bit more if I'm Milwaukee. I'm like, dude, screw you. I don't know who you are, but screw you. Yeah.
I feel like just judging from our listeners and from social media and whatnot, I think immediately after Game 7, people were either adamantly down on Jalen Green and he was the worst person in the world, or people were staunch defenders of Jalen Green.
Yeah.
I think everything is kind of simmered down a little bit, where you have to recognize and realize that, he is he's a really good basketball player. Mm-hmm. Is he ever going to be a superstar? I'm skeptical. But he is still a really good basketball player, and there are other teams that are going to look at him and say, yeah, he's a really good basketball player, and he's 22 years old. There's value in Jalen Green, but I also get that, which also means that, you don't just give him up for nothing,
right? And
you don't recognize that he was a huge part of you getting where you did in the regular season and in the playoffs.
For sure. Yeah, I know you could argue he was their best player. I don't think he's their best player, but I think you can make the argument in the regular season that he was their best player for sure. So these should absolutely be phone calls that are taking place between the Rockets and the Bucks. They should absolutely be discussing this. Anything that includes Amen Thompson is a hang up the phone for me. I think he's untouchable. There are reports that the Rockets view him as such as well. Rafael Stone was asked about that at his press conference last week, and he said, nobody's untouchable. I'm not even untouchable. I believe that might be posturing, just to, leave everything on the table. It's easy enough to hang up on a GM without telling all of us they hung up on a GM when Thompson's name came up.
I think one thing that we've learned about the dynamic with Udoka and Rafael Stone and everything else is that it certainly seems like Udoka wasn't crazy about the prospect of bringing James Harden back.
Without a doubt.
And I think it's Udoka's a coach where he cares about the culture, and it's not just lip service. Every coach talks about culture, but some actually live and breathe it. And I think with Udoka, he's going to have a lot of influence over a guy like Thompson leaving. It's not just the basketball upside, it's the type of player that he has about him that makes it even that much more so. It's the culture side of things that really makes it feel like Thompson would be untouchable.
Yeah, I think so too. People are texting in, Amen better not be involved in any trade. That's how I feel. I feel Thompson has top 10 player in the NBA potential, and I don't think anybody else on the roster does right now. Maybe Jalen Green has that potential. He was a number 2 overall pick. But I'm with you, Texter. How are you guys feeling about that? Text in 713-572-4610. Are you in on some Giannis talks? And if so, who are you willing to give up to make that happen? Someone texts in, Giannis would be a terrible fit. We already have no spacing. He'd make it worse. I don't think he'd make it worse. He's not a guy whose shooting cures your spacing issues, but he sure is a guy that you have to devote a lot of resources to if you're a defensive team trying to defend a team with Giannis on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between when you're playing with 2 big men in there and one of them is Steven Adams. Yes, Steven Adams brings a lot to the table in a lot of ways, but you're not going to have the same types of spacing issues that you do.
Right.
But I think the overall and relevant point is they can't just bring Giannis in and also not try to get better shooters as well. But is that something that you do on the fringes? Is that something you do, that are less heralded moves, but you can bring in guys and develop guys that are just going to make you a better shooting team? Giannis isn't the only thing that needs to happen for this team to become championship caliber.
Yeah, someone saying Kelly Eco has an article in The Athletic that says the Rockets are out on Devin Booker and Zion. Devin Booker's due for a major extension, into Devin Booker has become for the Phoenix Suns. I don't know why anybody would trade for Zion. Now, I'm not just talking about the Rockets. I'm talking about any NBA team. If you trade for Zion, it means you just don't have NBA League Pass in your city and you're able to keep in tune, or the internet, and you're able to keep in tune with what's good. Zion is injured all the time. He's fat. He's got off-the-court drama. Like, he's never been part of any sort of winning in the NBA.
He is precisely the kind of guy that gets a big bag from a team that doesn't actually know what they're doing.
That's a bag getter right there.
Yeah,
So we talked about this earlier with the NFL. Zion is a bag getter. And look, when he's on the court, which is a huge all-caps size 72 font, when he's on the court, he has some highlight plays. He averages well over 20 a game. I watch his teams enough to know that there's a winning version of 25 points a game and there's a losing version of 25 points a game, and he is a losing version of 25 points a game.
Zion Williamson is a guy that I look at and I'm like, well, I feel the fact that he's not a defensive end in the NFL right now is just evidence that that's exactly – the fact that he didn't choose football over basketball is exactly all the same character traits that led him to being whatever the hell he is now.
He's soft. Yeah. And Houston, he wouldn't do any better with the eating here than he's doing in New Orleans right now. That's
my same theory behind Aaron Judge as well, by the way.
What's
the
that?
fact that he's not actually in the NFL right now is
soft.
Exactly the same reason that he's not any good in the playoffs.
That's right. He's soft. You're just a little soft.
He can feast on bad pitching in the regular season, but no.
I don't get the Zion thing, man. Do not trade. If you trade for Zion, if Zion Williamson is the one they go in on these resources for, you are shutting the window, man. You are closing the window before it even got open. Someone says I would add Şengün to the untouchable list. I think he's close. I would listen to deals that involved Alper and Şengün. I mean, they would have to be Giannis, and it would have to be, I don't even know if KD would be. Like, Şengün is pretty close to, and I was very critical. We were both critical of certain aspects of Şengün in this playoff series, but I think his future is really, really bright.
Yeah, and I think that's why I hate these discussions about who's touchable and who's untouchable. It's kind of like when you have arguments about who should be in the Hall of Fame. It always ends up feeling like you're saying a guy that you really like is somehow trash.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't be in the NFL Hall of Fame or so. Likewise, yeah, being untouchable. Just because you're touchable doesn't mean that you don't have great value.
Correct.
It's just you're a little bit more touchable.
That's it. No trade. People are texting and they don't even want to trade. Run the same team back. I'm a little more open to the trade thing than that, but I get it.
They gotta get some. They've got to be able to score more. They've got shooters, yes, but just more scoring in general.
They need shooting. I mean, if they don't make any moves, that's a big bet that Reed Shepherd all of a sudden is going to become a big part of this team because he's a guy who's got that type of shooting potential.